Landlords will hate that you've seen this video. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can get approved to rent your own place guaranteed, even if you have an eviction on your record and often even with a criminal record. And bonus, I will teach you how to get cheaper rent from your landlord and often free rent on the front of your lease. By the end of this video, not only will you have your own place, but your security deposit will be lower and your rents will be cheaper, saving you thousands of dollars in the years to come as a renter. My name is Sean Rocky. I was evicted in 2009, went homeless and lived in a van for 4 months until I discovered the sneaky hack that I'm teaching you today. And I use this trick in my Airbnb business to this day, which I now have over 150 properties that I don't own, by the way. And I've made over $10 million on Airbnb using the same technique that I'm teaching you. Technique number one is how to prove your income without having to forge documents. Landlords will often take pay stubs or tax returns as proof of income, but if you forge those, you're committing a felony. You can prove your income through bank statements, and you don't have to give your landlord an itemized deposit from that bank statement. You can just give them the first page, a summary of all the deposits in total and all the withdrawals in total. So they don't need to see that maybe you did this trick, which is that you can have the same $300 and withdraw it and deposit every Monday through Friday and keep cycling $300 in and out of your account, showing eventually $6,000 in deposits if you just deposited $300 every business day. Technique number two is to bypass your eviction record and sometimes even your criminal record depending on how a landlord does their screening. This also works with apartment complexes. Everything that I've taught you so far, this and number one. Again, depending on who does the screening, what you'll do is you'll go online and you'll form an LLC on your local Secretary of State website. You don't need Rocket Lawyer, you don't need an attorney, no special services. Filing an LLC is a multi-step process, but it's not rocket science and it's much cheaper to do it on your own, sometimes even just $50 in some states. You then take your documents that you get from filing your LLC online and you go to the irs.gov website and form an EIN number for that business. That number works like a social security number for a business. And if you've ever heard of people using a temporary social security number after they've gone bankrupt or something like that, they're actually normally stealing someone else's, like a deceased person's social, and that's also a form of like identity theft or fraud as well, so don't do that. But forming an LLC and acting through its EIN number is totally legal. Once you have a business bank account using the EIN, you can do the cash trick that I taught you, which again, with businesses, sometimes you deposit cash, sometimes you withdraw it, you have business activities, so there is never a claim that a company's gross deposits are their exact net income, because every business has expenses, right? Normally, a landlord or property management company wants to see 4 months of bank statements, so this will typically take 4 months. I have before, though, in the past, used a fresh LLC and a personal bank account. I've shown that I had enough deposits for real. I showed for 4 or 6 months that an account had enough cash deposits with my name on it. And then I just used the company LLC and then gave them the business formation documents showing that I was an owner of that company. And with a 2-day-old LLC, I've been approved to rent somewhere. There was even a time I got approved as a brand new company with no bank statements. This is kind of crazy. It was a Greystar building, and they used something called Yardi Pro, and they wanted to use your Dun & Bradstreet number, which is like an EIN, but kind of like on steroids. It's a credit tracking company. It's a private company that you have to pay to do business with. It's kind of a pain in the butt. My main company had that number, but our score wasn't high enough to get approved. So womp womp, we got declined. And I said, well, what about if a company did not have a DUNS number? They said, well, what we would do then is we would call 5 of your references to prove that you're doing business and you're not in debt or you're not behind. If we can get a hold of 3 of those references and prove that you're in good standing, we can approve you. So I took 5 of my business owner friends and said, hey, I need you to say that this new company I formed doesn't owe any money, that you've done business with me, we've always paid on time, whatever. They asked my friends these generic business questions, they said that I was in good standing, and lo and behold, Yardi Pro approved me for a beautiful high-rise with no credit check, no background check, no bank statements, no proof of cash, nothing. I'm saying this to you to let you know that apartment complexes have a dozen different ways that they approve people. And some of them are kind of stupid. And some of them don't make a lot of sense. There's a lot of holes in the application process for businesses. They haven't had a reason to develop these practices. It's pretty Wild West. So you can take advantage of this by forming a company. You automatically get the trust of being a business, which is super cool. And you, again, bypass your eviction record because when the company applies through the EIN, they don't see you. They only see LLC, LLC's history, everything that it's ever done. And they never look you up, so they never find an eviction or a criminal record. Now, this does have a limitation because you still sometimes have to declare an occupant on a lease. Even though the LLC holds the lease, they still need a person to occupy. And if you're the occupant of that lease, they will do a criminal screening a lot of the times. So you can bypass the eviction record, but in this case where they force an occupant to be screened, you can't bypass the criminal. So in summary, this can take 4 to 6 months of business bank account building, but I've done it in just a few days using my personal bank statements or using references. Now here's the bonus round. You can get a landlord to give you a lot of stuff because they're people too, they're business owners and they own a property. Normally they have a mortgage and they're paying this mortgage, right? They put 10 or 20% down on the home. Sometimes they use an FHA loan and just put a few percent down on the home. They have to live in it for a year and then they become a landlord. But what happens when you finance almost the entire property and then you go live somewhere else and you try to become a landlord, you need to pay that mortgage. And you usually don't have a lot of spare cash. So 2 months go by and you don't have a tenant, you're running out of money. You're trying to pay this mortgage off that you don't have money for, so those landlords get scared. Any hopes of collecting a high amount of rent go away. You can go to that landlord and say, I will sign a lease today if you give me 15% off of rent. That is an easy ask when a landlord hasn't had a tenant for a couple of months. If the landlord kind of hems and haws about it, you'll say, tell you what, I'll sign a 2-year-long lease. That way you don't have to worry about tenant turnover. I'll take the most expensive part of your business away. Paying real estate agents for new tenants, having downtime between tenants, doing unnecessary repairs to get back to standard between tenants, stuff that landlords don't like to do. Finding a tenant is the most expensive part of this game. So you can solve that problem by signing a longer lease. This is also how you can get free rent. In my world as an Airbnb business owner, I will normally negotiate 8 to 15% off of rent because of the number of doors that I'll sign at the same time. With a landlord of a single home, I'll still go for about 8 or 10% off just because. Then I'll introduce a longer lease as the reason why I'm going to negotiate free rent. I normally can get 1 month of rent per year of lease for free. Now this includes a sales system that won't be taught in this video, but I have a whole playlist on pitching landlords to Airbnb. I'm gonna leave it down below, you can watch that. But what you should know is everything that you want from a landlord, you can ask for. There's a lease that says no subletting, there's a lease that says the rent is $2,000, that you need 2 months security deposit. All of this stuff is in a document that the landlord has as like his dummy sheet. He might be an idiot. Many landlords are actually idiots. They don't even know what their lease says. They can't read legal documentation. They're in real estate because they're not smart people. They would own a real business if they had any intelligence after all, because real estate is a really slow way to get rich. It's a foolproof way to get rich, so fools do it. And you can negotiate with the landlord and appeal to their pain and go, hey, you don't have a tenant for a couple of months or 3 months, and you could go another couple of months without a tenant. You could lose all of that money. Every single month that you go without that money is just wasted money paying your mortgage. I can protect you from that. And bonus, I'm an Airbnb host. You buy another property, I'll rent from you on that one too. I can take away the tenant finding aspect of your business today and just rent all of your properties from you moving forward. Let's make a deal. Let's do 10% off of market rent and give me 8 weeks of rent for free on the front end. And every property you buy, you'll have a tenant within a week because I will be making money renting your property on the short-term rental market. And I will be managing this property to make sure it's in good condition because I make money off of it. It's a win-win. Even if you don't do short-term rentals, you can still tell the landlord, I will sign a 3-year-long lease so you don't have to worry about tenant turnover. We will take away this part of your business. And if you're a good landlord, I'll continue to renew with you. And you tell them some story about why you will renew. And this can even work with security deposits. If you don't want to pay 2 months of security deposit, you need to know that landlords aren't allowed to spend that money. They can't take that money and go shopping. They have to keep it in a third-party account, some sort of trust accounting or escrow, just in case you do something wrong. They're then allowed to access that money because it's actually still your money. A security deposit is your cash that they have control of in case you screw up. It is your money. And when I go to a landlord, kind of business owner to business owner, I'll tell them, you know, it's really a waste to take $5,000 and lock it away for 2 years where neither of us can use it or put it to work. Instead, let's come up with a different agreement. I'll pay an additional month of rent on the front end. So I'll give you the first 2 months of rent instead of the first month of rent. That is something I often do to show that I have the money, but then I get that cash back because it's not locked away in an account. It goes to pay rent, which I was going to pay anyway. And then we come up with some small security deposit like $500 or $1,000. You can also do something called a security deposit bond. You pay 10% to a company or 15%, and then they put up the whole money. If you default or the landlord needs the money, then they will come after you for the rest of it, but you only had to expose yourself to 15%, and it's non-refundable. So you put up 15%, non-refundable bond, and the landlord gets covered for 100%. You can also do a letter of credit. Now you need the credit to do this, but businesses, we can do this pretty quickly. I have a coach in my program that can get somebody who doesn't even have American citizenship $20,000 in business credit fast. I've got students getting $100,000 of business credit pretty quick. And so with that, you could tell a landlord, I will go fetch $5,000 of credit on a line of credit, and I will assign it to you as a letter of credit so you can access it like a security deposit. But that way I don't have to waste the cash. I can put it to work as a business owner and you still have the guarantee you need. And remember, my friends, anytime that you make an offer, you need to ask, how does that sound for you? Or are we good? Or does that work for you? This is called a trial close. You seriously only get what you ask for. So make an offer, like here's a solution that works for both of us, I think. What do you think? Could that work? What do you think, could that work? Or how does that sound to you? That is the key line at the end of any sentence to get the landlord to say yes. If you don't ask them for a yes response, you could just have crickets. And the first person to talk after that loses. So go for the close, ask for what you deserve, and that includes asking for permission to run a business like mine. My students have made over $1 billion doing this, by the way. Nice and easy. So with that said, I teach Airbnb, this channel, just click along, a ton of free content, no catch. And if you have more questions about renting in general, put them in the comments. I'll be as helpful as I can. Thanks for watching this video all the way through to the end. And as always, I will see you on the other side.